This is James with Net News Ledger. We're going to talk about where we are a year into the pandemic. My question is, have we learned anything? Are we at the beginning of the end of the pandemic? Or are we at the end of the beginning? Winston Churchill might be able to tell us a little bit more about that. He did once in 1942.
This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end. But it is perhaps the end of the beginning.
There's been a lot of angst over the past year on COVID-19. Our first report on Net News Ledger was on February the 2nd, 2020. The global death toll was 350 people, and China was building hospitals at record paces to put the patients in. At that point in time, it was real difficult to imagine how our lives would become. We've seen lockdowns. We've seen restrictions on our daily lives. We've seen an economy hit so hard that despite all efforts, many businesses have been forced to close forever in many cases. Now, let's talk a year into the pandemic about some ideas moving forward. Reality is, even at the government's best goal, the plan is to have all Canadians vaccinated by September 2021. And we're being told that that's the light at the end of the tunnel. But the truth is we have a long ways to go still before everything in our lives can return to something like it was. So right now, there's a lot of pressure on our federal and provincial government leaders and municipal leaders looking at the local economy and hearing from local businesses to ease off on the restrictions. We have some in our society claiming that the whole pandemic is a hoax. Well, I guess there are people out there who believe that the world is flat. I'm not one of them. As far as I see it, and not being a medical expert, and not being a trained economist, but what I'm wondering is, are we rushing things? Are we putting all the effort, all the sacrifices, and all the pain of the past year in the back seat so that we can open up the economy? Coronavirus, COVID-19, and now the new variants of the virus, which are transmitted much easier and faster, are just starting to rear their ugly head in Ontario and across Canada. Ontario is headed into what many feel will be the home stretch of a provincial lockdown. Their hope is that on February 11th, 2021, the doors will reopen and people can start up again. Maybe, though, that's too soon. And maybe some people, especially including political leaders, are seeking to open things up because they're getting scared more of the people than they are of the virus. There have been small protests here in Thunder Bay. There's been larger protests in Toronto, and across the province there's been some businesses opening up in violation of the provincial lockdown regulations. Now, while some people are treating this situation with the full seriousness it deserves, the voices of a few yelling loudly should not be directing the province or the country or the city for that matter. Frankly, I think if Ontario pulls back the restrictions and we all take our eye off the ball and we put the economy ahead of the lives of seniors, we put the economy ahead of the lives of our loved ones, that we're likely to see another spike, a deadly third wave of this virus. We need right now to show the kind of courage needed not to fight this war on COVID-19. We need to demonstrate the courage to win this war on COVID-19. Let's get real. This is going to mean more sacrifice. It's going to cost all of us more money. We're going to need our government to show the leadership and the courage to realize that supporting our economy best won't come from easing off, but rather from stepping up and supporting businesses, supporting people, and showing the needed leadership to get things done. Really, if you think about it, is there any other real option? If you look at this from a more historical perspective, Canada in our past has shown real courage. The courage we took to get through the First World War, the Great Depression, the Second World War, the War on Terror, all of the things that we've had to overcome to get to where we are today. So my question is, are we willing to admit that now, in the fight to knock out COVID-19, our desire to go shopping is greater than the lives of Canadians? Really? Think of this. During the Second World War in the House of Commons, Port Arthur MP and Mackenzie King, the Prime Minister's Minister of Everything, C.D. Howe, was questioned over the cost of wartime armaments. Howe responded about the high cost. If we lose, it won't matter. And when we win, we won't care. And in many ways, that's exactly the attitude we need right now. Instead of rushing to open, we should, as a province and as a country, realizing that the war isn't over against this pandemic, keep fighting, keep the social distancing, keep washing our hands, keep following the guidances that we're getting. Right now, we have a vaccine. That represents hope. And perhaps in those historical perspectives, we are exactly where we were as allies in 1942 after winning in El Alamein in the desert of North Africa. Remember what British Prime Minister Winston Churchill said after the Allied victory. No, this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end. But it is perhaps the end of the beginning. And I say to you, that's where we are right now. The vaccine is a victory in the battle, but it's not the end of the battle. No matter how much it pains us, now is the time to double down, not ease up. We have all sacrificed so much. We're all missing the normal parts of our lives that COVID has put on hold. Maybe, though, pushing and putting the victory ahead of everything else, we can see things through to the total victory and a faster return to life as we all want it to be. That, of course, is just my opinion. As always, your mileage may vary. This is James from Net News Ledger, reporting from Thunder Bay, Ontario. To keep up to date, you have to subscribe. You have to hit that like button and hit the notification to stay in touch.